Jason Momoa is one of the most popular and loved actors in Hollywood, mostly famous for his roles in Game of Thrones and Aquaman. But his life hasn't always been easy. Unfortunately, he had to face a lot of challenges and hardships that made his dreams very difficult to achieve. But when your life purpose is clear, you can achieve the impossible, even when the odds are against you. This is the motivational success story of Jason Momoa, his inspiring journey from starving and having trouble paying the bills to becoming one of the most famous movie stars in the world. His childhood was not perfect. Jason Momoa was bullied a lot growing up. He was raised by his mother in Iowa, but he also spent a lot of time at his father's place in Hawaii. It was very painful for him because he felt as an outsider in both places. As a mixed-race kid, he was beaten up in school for being slightly different. His biracial background made him an easy target for bullies. His classmates were brutal. They even told him he was a freak. I got beat up a lot just for being slightly different. Before Jason Momoa was a famous celebrity, he was a teenager folding shirts in a surf shop to make ends meet. That's when he heard about an open audition for Baywatch Hawaii. Because he didn't have any acting experience whatsoever, he made up stories about being a successful model. And luckily for him, he got the role of one of the main characters in the show. So Jason Momoa went from folding shirts in a surf shop to starting a new exciting chapter in his life. But even though this role made him fall in love with acting, once the show had ended, he really struggled to find work. Because Baywatch wasn't really famous for its impeccable acting, no one really took him seriously. I couldn't get an agent to save my life. But at the age of 32, Jason Momoa finally landed his first gig as a leading man in Conan the Barbarian. But unfortunately, the movie was such a box office failure that was even listed as one of the 10 biggest flops of 2011. But that year wasn't bad after all, because he was cast as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones, one of the biggest TV shows in history. But while filming Game of Thrones, he was so broke that he didn't have enough money to take a flight back home when the cast took a filming break. So he rented a van instead and drove around Ireland. The role of Khal Drogo made him famous. However, when his role on the show suddenly ended, things began to complicate again. After Game of Thrones, he couldn't find work for a while, so he began struggling to make ends meet. He was having trouble paying the bills, so his debts began piling up and suffocating him. He said that his family didn't have enough to eat. We were starving after Game of Thrones. I couldn't get work. It's very challenging when you have babies and you're completely in debt. I was trying to get any role I could and not having much luck. But after several years of hardship, his luck finally turned around when he was cast as Aquaman. Jason Momoa's success story is really inspiring. He went from starving and barely making ends meet to becoming one of the most popular and loved movie stars in the world. And as we can see, success does not happen overnight and does not care about your excuses. So you won't get much done if you only work on the days when you feel good. Be patient. Try to give your best even when you don't feel like. Your future self will appreciate it. But also, applaud yourself. You survived those countless silent battles, failures, disappointments, those 100 times you felt like giving up, but you didn't. Do you know how amazing and brave that is? You are stronger than you think. Remember, it does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. So, what's your story?